Okay, so here I am back in the bathroom because my kid's trying to sleep and I can't make too much noise. What I wanted to do today is I wanted to go back and revisit the kind of like unwarranted, out of the blue competition between the Rings of Power and House of the Dragon, and how it was such a massive, wide gap defeat. Like the freaking Lakers were playing a second grade special ed basketball team. No offense to people that have special needs, but it was like that, all right? I want to kind of revisit why that was, okay? Because one show clearly had showrunners and writers and actors that actually loved the material that they were working with. You know, they were able to stay true to the lore while making creative changes that is respectable and doesn't take you too far off the path to the point where it wouldn't make sense with the official story. You know what I'm saying? That is one side, where the other side literally said, okay, how can we make Tolkien's work into a freaking Marvel movie? They didn't get any of the characters right. They had such bland characters. The Harfoots alone. I can't think of anything else in the freaking galaxy I care less about. I care more about a star quadrillions of light years away and the temperature it is on that freaking star than I care about the Harfoots. The fact that they had to call them Harfoots because they didn't have the rights to call them Hobbits is really hilarious. But also, you can't get more of a Mary Sue than Galadriel. You can't get any more of an obvious villain than you had with Halbrand. And you can't get any more of just this woke political messaging in your show than you did with Rings of Power. I mean, yeah, the House of the Dragon had some race changes in it, but it was done tastefully. It's kind of understandable that it could be that because technically the Valyrians were originally from Essos, and you could say that maybe that they were from a more southern part of Essos. You know, you could at least draw the line there. But when you make your entire show about identity politics and just don't give a damn about the book that you're basing it on, you're doomed to fail. And they failed. And I'm happy that they did, because now it's great material for content creators like myself. So we're going to go back and revisit that. Then we're going to take two characters, Viserys and Galadriel, and talk about how one was a captivating, tragic character, and the other one was Captain Marvel, basically, in medieval times. I get so pissed off at how terrible of a show this was. But then again, it's kind of funny. So, on with the video, guys. So, by now I'm assuming all of you fellow fantasy nerds out there like myself have seen the Season 2 trailers for both the House of the Dragon and the Rings of Power. And I'm also pretty certain that by clicking on this video, you've also seen the clear differences in the quality of both shows simply by recognizing how bland one is compared to how outlined and detailed the other is. In short, this is exactly the same reason why one season blossomed into a smash hit for its predecessor, whereas the other was an absolute embarrassment, sullying the name of its creator to satisfy the checkbox diversity higher culture pushed by our corporate and political overlords. To quote my man Critical Drinker, one show was made for modern audiences, where the other was made for, well, the fans. And large media outlets are still questioning how the Rings of Power could have possibly flopped by pointing out their greedy shill fingers at the consumers for being hateful bigots. Yeah, sounds like a great strategy, Cotton. I wonder how it pans out for them. You see, in preparation for this video, while on vacation to Sesame Place with my family this weekend so I could watch my son gaze in awe at the likes of Cookie Monster and Elmo, I watched both The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, and 4 episodes of my all-time favorite Game of Thrones season, Season 2. Which, by the way, we definitely need a tier list video on Game of Thrones season. Stay tuned for that. And both were just perfection. As a lover of the source material, it was a sight for sore eyes to watch such brilliant adaptations take place on screen, watching book characters come to life with the likes of Aragorn, Boromir, Tyrion, and Arya. Some of my favorite chapters from the books contain these 4 characters, and the showrunners, writers, costume designers, set designers, the whole team made sure that each line, each scene, each moment jumped out of the page and onto the screen, making us lovers of Tolkien and Martin elated at their final product. Fortunately for us, we get the same passion and dedication from Ryan Condal and Miguel Sapochnik for Season 1 of House of the Dragon. In fact, what's perhaps more impressive is their ability to create dialogue, events, and character developments not given to us by George R. R. Martin himself, or, at the very best, were just hinted at. The team at HBO managed to flesh out vaguely written plots into the final product seemingly indistinguishable from the original author's work. And it doesn't just take skill for that, it takes genuine passion as a fan. And that was something that showrunners J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay lacked in spades. In fact, let's go back to when both shows were just a buzz in our ear. Seasons 1 of both shows were hyped up to a crazy degree. Commercials, fan promos, behind the scenes, press interviews, you name it. And rightfully so. These are all standard operating procedures for newly anticipated series that do a great job building desire for an already salivating fan base. However, as Hot D was telling the tale of Rhaenyra versus Aegon and theirs, Rings of Power decided to focus on groundbreaking cultural changes to increase diversity in film and theirs. God, just saying those words caused my soul to escape from my ears and jump onto oncoming traffic. It was a disaster then, and it's a disaster now, becoming a meme with such classics as "A lot of talking about my girl Galadriel" and "First female dwarf ever." And how about "There's no elves that look like me"? I mean, God, give me a break. It's all just so corporate. If there's one word that describes Tolkien's work, it's not corporate. Yet, it was their way of turning his work into their own DEI Frankenstein monstrosity. And the backfire would hurt them immensely even before the first episode aired. Then came episode 1 for both shows, and the stark differences were palpable. Episode 1 for House of the Dragon was called The Heirs of the Dragon, which was also the chapter title from the book, and it immediately identified each character, their intentions, character traits, and their missions. It's clear from scene 1 that this is going to be a show revolving around a succession conflict and how patriarchal medieval societies shun women from positions of power. In the Rings of Power, however, we get some convoluted diatribe about how rocks sink and boats float, and then immediately dive into the oh-so-tiresome girl boss trope. For the life of me, I had no idea what I was watching halfway into episode 1, and that simply shows how little the creators of this garbage dump cared about its fan base. It's all spectacle and no essence. Somehow, some way, the folks at Amazon took the writings of one of the most brilliant, if not the most brilliant fantasy writer of the 20th century and turned it into an unrecognizable shit show where characters acted nothing like themselves. Origins of insignificant things suddenly become astronomically important and stupid, and an underlying theme as bland as Wonder Bread consisting of evil bad must defeat evil. I mean, my goodness. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's take a step back, and for the sake of comparison, let's take 2 of the series' main characters and do a little high school level compare and contrast project. Let's go with Viserys versus Galadriel. 2 characters integral to the events about to unfold within their worlds, both in positions of power or at least associated with a powerful group or house. Both are supposed to be struggling mightily with unique situations, having to balance inner turmoil with morality and what's right for the greater good, and both come into contact with family that are either holding them back or refusing to take them seriously. On one end, we have Viserys, a character barely fleshed out in the books, leaving a giant gap of time, events, and character development in the hands of the showrunners. Now, Game of Thrones fans will be the first to have an uneasy feeling when using the words unwritten material and showrunners. But fortunately for us, Ryan and Miguel's understanding of what made Game of Thrones a great series to begin with was characters in conflict with themselves, having a constant fight internally to avoid being your own worst enemy. The 2 tackle this brilliantly in episode 1 with Viserys as we quickly pick up on his anxiety towards his succession problem. The desire for a male heir becomes such an obsession that he physically gives the go-ahead to save his son's life over his own wife's during a botched pregnancy. You know, your old classic medieval botched pregnancy, which was like 60% of them back in those days. I mean, the woman he undoubtedly loved immensely becomes no more than an afterthought when it came to saving the life of a potential heir to the throne. It's only when he died within minutes of his birth that we get to see the true tragedy that is Viserys Targaryen.
In an attempt to rectify the fact that he may never conceive a son, he goes against centuries of tradition, naming his daughter the next in line for the throne. An extremely risky political move, considering he may lose the support from traditionalist houses of power within the realm. It is only until he is older, remarried, and his next wife, Queen Alicent, gives him Aegon that we see the utter delight he was chasing throughout the years. However, he never changes his succession from Rhaenyra even after seeing his own family split in two over the matter, and dies on his deathbed, leaving the realm in utter chaos. Everything about Paddy Considine's performance is just brilliant. From his outbursts towards Daemon and Rhaenyra, to his insecure moments of weakness where the love of his family blinds him from the truth of their current state. And to do so while progressively getting older and weaker, and more ill and senile, the acting is just top class. Even the wardrobes given to both him, Rhaenyra, and Alicent just scream ancient Byzantium or medieval feudalist England. I say this because each set piece, each article of clothing, each line spitted from an angry Viserys comes from a place of passion for the source material. And that, as you will see compared to Galadriel and the Rings of Power, is something you never really appreciate until it's gone. Speaking of which, I'm going to start off by giving props to the Rings of Power for the first and probably last time. Okay, the CGI looks great. Is it overdone and perhaps too fantastical at times? Well, yes, but I will give you that for the most part, it's a good looking show. But unfortunately for Amazon, both the lovers of the books and modern day consumers are a little too smart to ever fall for such lipstick on a pig garbage. It's putting a gilded layer of gold on that giant pile of crap from Jurassic Park and attempting to call it the Wanderer above the sea fog. No, it's not. That was a poignant masterpiece from a classical romantic era in human artistic history. This crap is just crap colored gold. But anyway, believe it or not, that's as nice as I'm gonna get, so let's move forward. Episode 1 kicks off by showing us a young Galadriel mastering the ancient craft of origami, a medieval Japanese art form that belongs nowhere in Middle-earth, but let's get by that. Fortunately for her, this transforming paper art is able to withstand a heavy river current and successfully float, causing her to feel accomplished and superior, a trait that the character never grows out of in her early years and into her later years. It isn't until a group of boys bully her by sinking it with a rock that causes her next most undesirable trait to emerge: ruthless violence. As she stands above the boy, fist cocked, ready to smash his face in Kristen Cole style, she's interrupted by her brother, who attempts to lecture her on some simple physics of buoyancy in the most idiotic faux meta-analogy I've ever heard in my life. Right then and there, I knew that if this was going to be the dialogue of the show, we're fucked. You see, freshman level philosophy major over here dies soon after fighting the evil Morgoth. However, his protege Sauron still lives, so she sets out to avenge her brother's death, which was like one death in like 200,000, so kind of selfish to be only doing this for your brother instead of like all your people, but whatever. Therefore, our protagonist / really starting to look like an antagonist spends the next century scouring Middle-earth in search of him, sacrificing the lives of goodness knows how many companions and treating them like they're absolute shite. Oh, and she also kills a cave troll because A, of course she can, when none of the men can even put up a fight, by the way, and because B, member cave trolls? And that brings me to my next point about Galadriel and the rest of the show. In my last video, I talked about my Goldilocks method for adaptation, and that if you service the fans too much, you kill the interest of the casual viewer. But if you stray away too far from the source material, the fans will feel betrayed by the showrunners. The middle ground between those two things is literally the key to a good to great adaptation project. See The Last of Us, Fallout, The Lord of the Rings, or seasons 1 to 4 Game of Thrones, for example. This, however, does both horrifically, leaving lovers of Tolkien baffled by what the hell they're witnessing, and casual viewers bored by the crap writing and characters as deep as a freaking puddle. Even the member berries are often unrecognizable or thrown in at random, sticking out more than a green hat with an orange bill. Shout out to 90s Eminem for that line. Case in point, Galadriel. A member berry from the trilogy that is nothing like her book / movie counterpart. Instead, she makes your average Mary Sue look like a freaking amateur. She can do no wrong, fears no evil, wins every battle with the sword or tongue, and always wins in the end. How is that an interesting character compared to someone like Viserys Targaryen? One is a flawed tragedy, where the other is a plot-armored cheat code. Like you modded the hell out of Skyrim to the point where the Dragonborn is literally a destroyer of worlds. By and large, this leaves you with two series that aren't even on the same plane of reality, let alone competitors. One series took a book with barely fleshed out characters and used creative writing and classical plot techniques to enhance a story, where the other took a bad Marvel movie and freaking copy and pasted Middle-earth to it. There is no doubt in my mind that the Rings of Power will never be able to crawl out of this planet-sized crater they dug for themselves in Season 1. Conversely, the odds of the House of the Dragon potentially reclaiming the throne, pun intended, is extremely high, due to the care and passion put into it from everybody, from the studio to the writing team, to the editors, designers, to the freaking on-set emergency catering service. It's 2024, people. Even your casual viewer has enough brains to know when something is a message-pushing, spectacle-only, shallow piece of garbage. And when you lose the casual viewer, you lost it all. But that's all I had to say about that. Let me know what you think. Did you actually enjoy The Rings of Power? I haven't met one person that said something remotely good about it, but maybe you could be the first. Am I crazy? Is this the finest work of art since the freaking statue of David? Or am I just... that can't be physically possible. But let me know what you thought about House of the Dragon. Did you enjoy it as much as I did? I literally think it's as good as like early Game of Thrones. But I'd love to hear what you have to say about that. Leave a comment down below. Like, share, subscribe to this channel. Again, it's your buddy Muddy, AJ from Queens, back with another video. And before I go, I just wanted to mention that I am starting a second channel called More Useless Reactions, where we're going to be going over your daily/weekly stupid video and talking about everything from sovereign citizens to Karens to stupid IRL streamers. Just all that wonderful degeneration of our society. So join me on that adventure, and as always, peace out.